It happened so fast
This is
that if you blinked,
outrageous!
you'd swear
You
your eyes
can't
were
just
lying.
ignore the evidence
Red
I
and
have
blue
right
lights
here!
flashed across a quiet neighborhood street, the wail of sirens cutting through the evening like a blade. And at the center of it stood a black woman, calm, composed, and completely unsuspecting, seconds away from being slammed into a nightmare she didn't deserve. But destiny had other plans. Because she wasn't just a woman. And the cop wasn't ready for the truth hiding inside her purse. Her name was Danielle Carter. 32 years old, on her way home from grocery shopping. Wearing a simple navy jacket and carrying a brown paper bag filled with cereal, oranges, and a carton of milk. Ordinary in every visible way. But behind her quiet expression lived a lifetime of purpose and training. The patrol car screeched to a halt inches from the curb, gravel spraying under the tires. Out stepped Officer Ray Bolton, a man known around the precinct for playing rough, where he thought nobody important would see him. His voice boomed before his boots even hit the ground. "You, step away from the vehicle." Danielle froze. She wasn't speeding. She hadn't run a light. She hadn't done anything except drive home from work. Yet here she was, suddenly spotlighted as if she were public enemy number one. "What's the problem, officer?" she asked, steady and polite. Bolton smirked. The smirk of someone who thought he had already won. "Stolen vehicle. Matches the description. Hands where I can see them." Danielle blinked. Her car was hers, registered, paid off. But Bolton wasn't questioning. He was hunting. The neighbors peered through blinds, some recording on cell phones, sensing that this was the kind of moment news stations loved to replay. Danielle raised her hand slowly, measuring the tension around her. She'd seen this scene before, too many times. Friends, strangers, names that became hashtags. Bolton darted forward, grabbed her bag, and dumped the groceries onto the hood. Fruit rolled into the street. Milk burst open and streamed down the windshield like white paint. "Look at that," he muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Guilty already." Danielle inhaled, long and calm. She felt anger claw at the back of her throat, but she swallowed it whole. "Not yet, not here." Then Bolton made his biggest mistake. He slapped cold handcuffs around her wrists. And Danielle finally decided she'd had enough. Very slowly, she turned her head, locked eyes with him, and whispered, "Officer, I think you should check my identification." Everything was about to change. Officer Bolton laughed at her request, a cruel, mocking sound that bounced off the parked cars and traveled straight into the ears of the neighbors watching. He thought he knew exactly who he was dealing with, just another woman he could bully into silence. But Danielle Carter wasn't built for silence. Bolton tugged at her purse and yanked it open with zero care. Receipts fluttered out. A wallet tumbled to the cement. Danielle watched with cool eyes, her wrists cuffed but her confidence growing by the second. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding," Bolton sneered. His gloved fingers flipped open her ID slot, and that's when the mask of power on his face cracked like glass. A flash of deep blue. A gold emblem. The unmistakable crest of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Special Agent Danielle Carter. Bolton froze. His breath hitched. The color drained from his skin so fast he looked like he'd stepped out of a freezer. The neighbors gasped. One woman whispered, "Oh Lord." A man at his door muttered, "He's done." Danielle tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. "Officer Bolton," she said, voice steady as concrete, "I'm on federal assignment. And you just detained a federal agent without cause." Bolton clutched the wallet like it might explode. Reality hit him hard and fast. Videos were rolling. Witnesses were stacked like dominoes. Every second he delayed made his fate worse. He stammered, there must be some kind of mistake." But Danielle cut him off. "No mistake. You profiled me, you targeted me, and now you need to remove these cuffs. Now." Bolton scrambled. His hands shook as he unlocked the restraints, metal clinking in the tense air. Danielle rubbed her wrist slowly, the red marks a silent accusation stamped onto her skin. "Ma'am, listen." "No," she snapped sharply. "You listen." Her voice, cool moments earlier, carried the power of someone who wasn't playing anymore. "You damaged my property. You falsely accused me. And you escalated force without justification." Bolton tried to stand tall again, but it was useless. The authority had shifted. Danielle opened her car door, took out a small device, and held it up. A body cam recorder. Her own, already blinking red. "I've been recording since you stopped me," she said. That was the moment Bolton realized he wasn't just losing control. He was being documented, perfectly, from start to finish. He stepped back like a man staring at his own obituary. For the first time since stepping out of his cruiser, Bolton had nothing to say. For a long beat, the street held its breath. Officer Bolton stood frozen, trapped between panic and disbelief, while Danielle remained perfectly still, hands lowered now, but all the power radiating through her light-controlled fire. The neighbors who had been whispering before were suddenly bold. "Play stupid games," one man murmured. "Win federal consequences," another finished. Phones pointed at Bolton like silent weapons, recording every twitch, every gulp, every desperate blink. Danielle didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Officer Bolton," she said sharply, "you will now provide me with your badge number." Clearly, loudly, for the record. Bolton swallowed hard, throat clicking. "Look, Agent Carter, I don't." "Badge number," she repeated, cutting him cleanly. The words hit with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Bolton finally spoke, voice trembling. "Badge number 2745. Danielle nodded. "And your commanding officer, Lieutenant Harris, Downtown Division." "Good. You'll be hearing from the Bureau." Bolton shifted back a step, suddenly smaller, suddenly harmless. Just another man who realized he'd poked a lioness and now had to pray his bones weren't about to get crushed. Danielle crouched calmly to pick up the spilled groceries, wiping a smashed orange off the car hood. The act was almost serene, but there was electricity under it. When she stood again, she looked directly at the crowd. "You all got this?" she asked. A dozen phones lifted higher in answer. Bolton watched helplessly as she retrieved the milk carton, half empty and dripping, tossed it aside, and closed her trunk with a soft thud. Then she leaned in close enough that only he could hear her next words. "Here's what you don't know," she whispered. "This isn't the first time you've pulled this nonsense. And the Bureau has been getting complaints about a certain officer for months. I was already looking for you." Bolton's eyes widened, horror blooming like poison. "You, what?" "I've been surveilling this precinct," she continued, voice low and lethal. "And congratulations, tonight, you volunteered to be the final case study." Bolton stumbled back, hitting his cruiser door with his heel. "You set me up." "No," Danielle corrected, stepping back. "You set yourself up. I just showed up to watch it happen." With that, she turned and opened her car door. But before she stepped inside, she delivered the final strike. "You should call your lieutenant now. Tell him the Bureau will request your file, all of it." Bolton looked sick. Danielle drove away slowly, inches above a grin, knowing this was far from over. Officer Bolton didn't wait a second after Danielle's taillights vanished. He lunged into his cruiser, slammed the door shut, and grabbed his radio with hands shaking so badly he almost dropped it. "Dispatch. Patch me through to Lieutenant Harris. Now." The operator paused. "Is everything all right?" "No," he snapped, sounding far more desperate than he intended. "Just get Harris." Static crackled, then a deep, measured voice filled the cabin. "This is Harris. Report." Bolton's chest tightened. He knew he had to choose his words carefully. But panic made finesse impossible. "Sir, I think I made a mistake. A big one." Harris' voice stayed flat, unimpressed. "You're gonna have to be more specific, Ray." Bolton inhaled shakily. "I pulled over a woman. Claimed her car matched a stolen registration." "Okay," Harris replied. "Was it stolen?" "No." "Then why'd you pull her over?" A dead silence followed that question, one that said more than words ever could. Bolton forced the truth out like broken glass. She turned out to be FBI." The response was instant. "What?" Harris thundered, suddenly wide awake. "You detained a federal agent. Ray, what the hell were you thinking?" Bolton's voice cracked. "She wasn't acting like a fed. No badge out. Just some random." Harris cut him off with a roar. "That's not how the law works, and you know it." Harris exhaled sharply, the kind of breath a man takes before everything collapses. "Did she tell you her name?" "Agent Danielle Carter," Bolton replied, barely above a whisper. There was a long pause. Too long. Then Harris spoke, voice low and grim. "Bolton, I got a memo about her 2 weeks ago. The Bureau sent agents undercover to investigate civil rights violations. They didn't say who or where, but if she ID'd herself to you. His words trailed off into the doom already forming in Bolton's brain. They're coming for you, Harris finished flatly. Bolton went pale. No, they can't, sir, she said they were already watching the precinct. That they have complaints, and now they have video, Harris snapped. You pulled her out of the car, dumped her property, cuffed her without cause. Ray, that's career suicide. Hell, that's lawsuit suicide. Bolton felt the world closing in, each passing second a noose tightening around his career, his pension, his life. What do I do? He pleaded. Harris didn't sugarcoat it. You go home. You wait. And you pray the FBI calls me first. Bolton didn't argue. He jammed the cruiser into gear and sped off. Not in triumph, but in absolute terror. Meanwhile, miles ahead, Danielle Carter was already setting the next domino into place. Danielle didn't waste a minute after she pulled into her apartment building's underground garage. Her groceries were ruined, her evening wrecked, but she didn't allow irritation to dull her purpose. Tonight was exactly the kind of event she'd been waiting for. She locked her car, strode toward the elevator, and pulled out her phone. One speed dial number, 2 rings. Then a calm, smoky voice answered. Carter, I assume you've got something. Danielle smiled despite herself. More than something, she replied. We finally got Bolton on record. Her supervisor, Assistant Special Agent in charge Elena Graves, exhaled slowly. Good, you were right about him. Danielle stepped into her apartment, dropped the ruined groceries, and walked straight toward her desk. I was more than right, she continued, already booting up her laptop. He practically did my job for me. What's the footage like? Graves asked. Clear, Danielle said. Full stop. Detention, profiling, destruction of property, illegal search, unlawful restraint, and his badge number verbalized on camera. Graves let out a low whistle. That's more than enough. Danielle clicked a file transfer. The progress bar sprinted across the screen. Uploading now, she said. And the witnesses? Graves asked. Half the neighborhood had phones out. If we subpoena, we'll have a dozen angles. Graves chuckled darkly. Beautiful. This might blow wider than just Bolton. Danielle nodded, her voice hardening. That's the point. He's not the disease, just the symptom. A pause hung in the air. You think it's systemic, Graves stated, not asked. I know it, Danielle answered. And Bolton proved it tonight. On the other end, Graves matched her tone. Then let's finish what we started. I'll brief the director. Expect a call from Internal Affairs first thing in the morning. Danielle logged the incident, her fingers typing with controlled fury. Paperwork was dull, but justice was a fire she happily fed with hours and evidence. And Carter, Graves added before hanging up, you did good out there. Danielle closed her eyes. Feels like I finally did something that matters, she replied quietly. When the call ended, the apartment fell silent. Danielle finally took a breath. Slow, steady, releasing the tension she had swallowed during the encounter. But she knew tonight wasn't victory, not yet. The real battle would start when the precinct realized the walls were closing in. And at that exact moment, across town, Officer Bolton dropped his keys on his kitchen table, slumped into a chair, and stared at the floor. Wondering if tomorrow would be the day his badge stopped meaning anything. Morning sunlight crept reluctantly over the city, as if even the dawn hesitated to shine on what was coming. Inside the precinct, chatter buzzed like angry hornets. Several officers hovered near lockers, whispering, pausing every time the front door swung open. Rumors traveled faster than paperwork. Did you hear? Bolton messed with a Fed. No way. I got it from dispatch, FBI. Real badge. By the time Lieutenant Harris stepped into the precinct, every eye followed him. His jaw was set, his expression dark, his stride heavy. He didn't go to his office. He went straight to the roll call board and slapped down a memo so hard the magnets rattled. All right, shut it, he barked. Silence rippled instantly. This is official notice, Harris said grimly. As of 0700 this morning, an internal review has been opened regarding Officer Raymond Bolton. Heads snapped up. Gasps followed. It concerns a traffic stop conducted last night, Harris continued. A stop involving a federal agent. Now the room really changed. Air tightened. Faces blanched. Anyone who had ever laughed at Bolton's swagger suddenly saw it in a different light. Not power, arrogance. Harris scanned the room, eyes sharp. From this moment on, everything you do, everything you say, every report you file may be subject to federal oversight. Bolton stepped inside then. Late, exhausted, eyes like a man who hadn't slept all night. Whispers turned into open stares. Harris didn't sugarcoat it. "You'd better sit," he growled. Bolton slid into a chair like a deflated balloon. "The FBI contacted me at 6 a.m., Harris said. "They want your dashcam, your body cam, every stop log for the past 6 months." Bolton swallowed hard. "And," Harris added, "expect a phone call from Internal Affairs within the hour." A hushed voice asked from the back, "Is he suspended?" Harris shook his head slowly. "Not yet, but let's not pretend that's anything more than a formality." Bolton stared at the floor, heartbeat pounding in his ears like a war drum. He tried to speak. "I didn't know." Harris shut him down. "That's the point, Ray. You never asked. You assumed. You escalated. And now we all pay." A few officers shifted uncomfortably, suddenly remembering their own questionable stops. "And let me be clear," Harris finished sternly, "if anyone else is pulling what Bolton pulled, you better clean up your act. Because the Bureau's watching now." Bolton realized then that his greatest fear wasn't suspension. It was exposure. Somewhere across town, Agent Carter watched her inbox ping. Internal Affairs. Interview confirmed at 10 o'clock. The storm had officially begun. Agent Danielle Carter arrived at the precinct that morning dressed not in the casual clothes she wore the night before, but in her full professional armor. A crisp black suit, polished shoes, and the FBI badge clipped visibly to her belt. The entrance lobby went silent the moment she stepped in. Officers froze mid-sentence. Paperwork paused mid-air. Even the coffee maker sputtered into awkward quiet, as if the building itself felt the shift in power. Danielle's heels clicked across the tile, steady and deliberate. A metronome announcing accountability. The desk sergeant cleared his throat. "Ma'am." "Agent Carter." "Yes," she replied without slowing. "Internal Affairs." "That's Conference Room B," he said quickly, gesturing with a tremor. Danielle pushed through the door, and there sat 2 men in plain suits. Internal Affairs Investigator Reese Donovan, and Civil Rights Division Attorney Maya Chen. Donovan nodded. "Agent Carter, thank you for coming." Danielle took her seat, back straight. "I'm here to provide my official statement," she said, voice controlled. Chen pressed a recorder button. "For the record, recount last night's incident from the moment you encountered Officer Bolton." Danielle began. Her words were calm, factual, yet powerful. She described the moment the lights hit her rearview mirror. Bolton's approach, his initial accusation, the destruction of her groceries, his decision to cuff her without cause, the profiling, the escalation, the humiliation disguised as procedure. Not once did her tone crack. Not with anger, not with fear. She'd lived this narrative too many times, observed too many cases, studied too many scars in the system to let emotion derail clarity. By the time she finished, Donovan sat back, stunned. Chen folded her hands thoughtfully. "Do you believe the officer targeted you based on race?" she asked. Danielle paused. Her answer was simple, yes. Chen nodded slowly, absorbing each syllable as if documenting history. "And you believe," Donovan added, "that this behavior may not be isolated?" Danielle met both their eyes. "I don't think it. I know it." She slid a flash drive across the table. "This contains 3 months of surveillance logs. Unofficial patterns. Recorded complaints. Names of drivers stopped without valid justification. Officer Bolton is not the first and won't be the last. But he's the loudest starting point." The 2 investigators exchanged weighted glances. After a long beat, Chen said, "This may develop into a federal civil rights inquiry." Danielle nodded once. "That's why I'm here." Donovan clicked off the recorder. "Agent Carter, we appreciate your work. And we'll take it from here." Danielle stood. "No," she corrected gently, "we'll take it from here." Outside the conference room, whispers exploded. And Bolton. He sat alone in a hallway chair. Arms limp, eyes hollow. Listening as the walls of his world began to collapse. Officer Bolton sat in the hallway like a man awaiting sentencing. Every sound, The ring of a phone, the slam of a locker, the shuffle of boots, felt sharper, heavier, like the world had turned up the volume on his downfall. When the conference room door finally opened, he flinched. Danielle Carter stepped out first, badge gleaming, posture tall, confidence radiating like sunlight after a long storm. She didn't look at him, not once. That was worse than anything she could have said. Behind her came Donovan and Chen, their expressions unreadable. Bolton shot to his feet. "Sirs, ma'am, look, you have to understand." Donovan lifted a hand to silence him. "Officer Bolton, you'll get your chance. Follow us." Bolton swallowed the rising panic and obeyed. Inside the room, he sat where Danielle had moments earlier, only the air felt colder now. Chen hit the recorder. "For the record, state your name and badge number." "Raymond Bolton. Badge 2745, he muttered, voice small. As the questioning began, Bolton realized that everything he thought he could spin, soften, or justify was crumbling. Every excuse sounded flimsier spoken aloud. "I thought the vehicle was stolen," he insisted. "And what evidence led you to that conclusion?" Donovan countered. Bolton froze. He had no answer that didn't betray him. Chen leaned forward. "Officer, did Agent Carter match the license plate of any reported stolen vehicle?" "No," Bolton admitted. "Did dispatch confirm a stolen status at any point?" "No." "Did you observe any traffic violation whatsoever?" Silence. Bolton tried one more threadbare line. "She didn't look like someone driving a car like that." The room chilled. Chen locked eyes with him. "What exactly does that mean, Officer Bolton?" Bolton's mouth opened, but no words came out that wouldn't bury him deeper. Donovan clicked his pen. "It means profiling, which, coupled with illegal detention, equals a civil rights violation." Bolton felt the ground give way beneath his chair. "And to be clear," Chen added, "Agent Carter was not a random motorist. She was assigned by the FBI to investigate patterns of misconduct within your precinct." Bolton blinked hard. He'd been targeting the wrong people. She had been targeting him. Donovan's tone softened. Not sympathetically, but inevitably. "Officer Bolton, based on this testimony and recorded evidence, effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave pending full investigation. Turn in your badge and weapon." Silence swallowed the room. Bolton stared at the table, eyes glassy. His hand rose slowly and unclipped the badge that once defined him. The clang when he set it down felt like a gravestone dropping into place. When he walked out, badge gone, gun surrendered, every officer in the precinct turned away. Across town, Danielle Carter stepped back into daylight, breathing clean air. But knowing the battle was far from over. News doesn't walk in the modern world, it sprints. By noon, the story wasn't just circulating inside the precinct. It had leaked beyond it. A whisper turned into a rumor. A rumor turned into a post. And a post turned into a wildfire. Cop detains FBI agent without cause. Internal affairs swarms local precinct. Profiling investigation underway. Social media latched onto the story like a shark to blood. Videos from the neighborhood circulated, grainy but unmistakable. There was Bolton dumping groceries. Bolton cuffing Danielle. Bolton barking suspicion with nothing to stand on. Within hours, the city's mayor's office called for a statement. Civil rights activists posted demands. Reporters camped outside the precinct doors. Lieutenant Harris looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in one morning. Every time someone said FBI, a new muscle twitched in his jaw. "Get these cameras off my sidewalk," he snapped at a sergeant. But cameras don't listen to shouted orders. Inside the building, officers walked on eggshells. Some cursed Bolton under their breath. Others feared they might be next if their own stops were reviewed. Two younger patrolmen whispered near the break room. "Man, he brought this on himself." "Yeah, but we all knew how he worked." And nobody said a thing. Their eyes drifted toward Danielle's name on the visitor log. Meanwhile, Agent Carter wasn't scrolling through headlines. She was preparing. Her mission wasn't fame, it was reform. Graves called mid-afternoon with an update. "We've officially escalated," she said. "Civil Rights Division is greenlit. DOJ wants full records on the precinct. This is going federal fast." Danielle stood by her window, watching the city pulse below. "This isn't just Bolton anymore," she murmured. "No," Graves agreed. It's every cop who thought they could hide behind a badge. Danielle nodded. And every person who never got believed. Outside, Bolton returned home to find a news van parked near his street. His neighbor hurried inside at the sight of him. A kid yelled, "Hey, aren't you the guy who messed with the FBI lady?" Bolton shut his door before the question finished, heart pounding. He wandered the silent rooms of his house, the framed photos of academy graduation, the polished commendations, the uniform hanging in the closet. For the first time, he saw them not as symbols of authority, but as trophies earned on a foundation that was cracking apart. And somewhere deep inside, a truth he fought for years began to break through. He hadn't been one bad decision away from disaster. He had been making bad decisions for years. And the world had finally caught up. 3 days later, the precinct Danielle once slipped through quietly was unrecognizable. Federal vehicles lined the curb like silent judges. Suits from the DOJ, FBI, and Civil Rights Bureau moved through hallways with clipboards and steely eyes. File cabinets thudded open. Hard drives were boxed. Every whisper echoed like thunder. Some officers cooperated with forced smiles. Others scowled, convinced the feds were the enemy. But everyone, felt the weight of accountability pressing on their shoulders. Danielle entered the building again, this time not alone. Her presence announced by her badge, her stride, and the 3 DOJ attorneys flanking her. The room parted around her like water around a ship's bow, not out of fear, but out of recognition. Respect, or at least the beginning of it. Harris stepped forward and cleared his throat. "Agent Carter," he said. "Yes, Lieutenant. I've been informed I'll be interviewed as well." Danielle nodded. "If you've done your job with integrity, you'll be fine." The implication landed hard, because Harris wasn't entirely sure he fit that category. As Danielle headed deeper into the precinct, she noticed something striking. For the first time, officers avoided stopping people without cause. No one swaggered. No one barked orders. Paperwork was meticulous. Bodycams stayed on. Fear may have been the catalyst, but accountability was becoming routine. Meanwhile, Bolton stood in a side office with Donovan and Chen. His face was blotchy, eyes rimmed red. He looked less like a cop and more like a defendant. Chen spoke bluntly. "Officer Bolton, after reviewing dashcam logs and civilian complaints, we've identified a pattern of stops and searches that violate constitutional protections." Bolton's voice cracked, barely audible. "Are you firing me?" Donovan folded his hands. "Effective immediately, you are terminated from the department." Bolton sagged. "But that isn't the end," Chen added. "We are referring your record to the district attorney for potential civil rights charges." Bolton's head snapped up, stunned. "You can't." "I didn't. I never meant." Chen's expression didn't change. Intent doesn't erase impact. Bolton felt the floor disappear beneath him again. His career was gone. His pension threatened. His name damaged beyond repair. And yet, beneath all the panic, something unexpected surfaced. A flicker of regret, not for getting caught, but for finally seeing himself through someone else's eyes. As Bolton signed his termination paperwork with a shaking hand, Danielle watched through the glass. Not with triumph, not with spite, but with a hope she had almost forgotten she possessed. Systems can change, even if they must break first. The city didn't snap back to normal after Bolton's firing, it shifted. Community groups, usually ignored or sidelined, were suddenly being invited into precinct meeting rooms. Not as spectators, but as voices that mattered. Town halls filled up. Speakers stood not just with outrage, but with proof, names, dates, experiences that echoed Danielle's night on the roadside. For once, officers listened. Inside the precinct, Harris found himself staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror more often than his computer screen. Lines etched his forehead: stress, guilt, responsibility. He had always known Bolton's aggressive stops were questionable, yet he let them slide because they produced arrests, citations, results. But results built on fear weren't victories. They were warnings. Late one evening, Harris approached Danielle as she reviewed case files in a shared office. "Agent Carter," he said softly. She looked up, wary. Harris hesitated, then spoke words that tasted like gravel. "I should have stepped in earlier. I won't make that mistake again." Danielle studied him. The man wasn't evil, she realized. He was complicit through silence, a different but dangerous form of guilt. Then step forward now, she replied. This isn't about one cop losing his badge. It's about a department earning back its honor. Harris nodded, and for the first time truly meant it. Meanwhile, Bolton remained at home, jobless, name tarnished, future uncertain. His mailbox filled with letters. Black Medium Square Internal Affairs notifications. Black Medium Square Civil Review warnings. Black Medium Square subpoena notices. Black Medium Square media requests. Black Medium Square and, unexpectedly, one handwritten note. He almost threw it away. But something about the script stopped him. You don't get to undo what you did. But you get to decide who you become next. A neighbor. Bolton sat for a full minute staring at those 9 words. He thought about every face he'd pulled over, every driver who looked scared, every person who walked away knowing they were treated like a suspect first and a citizen second. He felt something break. Not pride, but delusion. In another life, he might have ignored the note. But this one, it became the first thing he taped to his refrigerator door. Across the city, Danielle stood before a room of community leaders and police representatives. We can't change the past, she told them. But we can prevent it from repeating. Applause rose. Not thunderous, but steady and real. And that night, as the city lights flickered against her apartment windows, Danielle realized something profound. Justice wasn't a single moment or punishment. It was a movement. Slow, relentless, and fueled by courage. One precinct had been forced to answer for its actions. But tomorrow, many more could follow. 6 months later, the city looked the same on the outside. The same buildings, the same streets, the same traffic lights. But beneath the surface, nothing was the same. Complaints once buried in dusty drawers now triggered mandatory reviews. Body cams that mysteriously failed, suddenly stayed on. Stops without cause plummeted. And for the first time in years, community trust began to rise. Not magically, not instantly, but measurably. Inside the precinct, a new training program took shape, born out of paperwork, caution, and hard conversations. Bias awareness courses, civil rights refreshers, a standing policy requiring a supervisor's approval before certain high-tension stops. Some officers grumbled, saying the job was harder. Others admitted quietly, no, this is how it should have always been. Lieutenant Harris led the charge now, speaking with conviction instead of defensiveness. He reviewed body cam footage weekly, not when forced. And when he spotted an officer blurting assumptions or escalating too fast, he didn't look away, he shut it down. Danielle watched all of it with cautious satisfaction. Her investigation had ended, but she hadn't left. She was assigned to other cases, other missions, yet she kept her pulse on the precinct she'd helped shake awake. One afternoon, while visiting to consult on a training session, Danielle noticed a familiar face outside the station. Raymond Bolton, not in uniform, not escorted by lawyers, just a man, leaner, quieter, carrying himself differently. He walked up slowly, no swagger, no defensiveness. Agent Carter, he said. Danielle raised an eyebrow. Mr. Bolton. He took a breath. I'm not here for excuses. Or pity. He paused. I start volunteering next week. Civil rights advocacy group. Danielle blinked, surprised despite herself. You joining the movement? She asked dryly. Bolton shook his head. No, I'm trying to unlearn who I was. For the first time, Danielle saw sincerity instead of ego. People like me shouldn't be teaching cops, he said. But maybe I can warn kids what power shouldn't look like. Danielle nodded slowly, absorbing the truth in his words. You can't fix the past, she said. But you can refuse to repeat it. Bolton managed a sad, grateful smile. Working on it, he walked away. Not redeemed, not forgiven by society, but beginning a road that mattered more than punishment, accountability. Danielle stepped inside the precinct, feeling the shift in the air. Not perfection, progress. She smiled, faint but real. Justice hadn't arrived in one dramatic moment. It had unfolded in layers, painful, messy, human, until something stronger emerged. And as she drove away, radio humming low, she whispered. This is only the start.